What day is it? Let me have a look. It is March 24th, 2025. Broadcasting to you semi-live from capital K, Canada Stan, in the top half of North America. Just for the curious, if you're curious and you haven't been overly programmed, the substance we've been taking comes straight from the feed store. Alright? Same shit. No doubt it clears up and heals everything. You just go by your weight and you let it rip. So to all those asking for the questions of where we have got our Ivermectin, it's the same stuff at the feed store. Shake your head, laugh all you want, but if that's how you feel about it, sadly the joke's on you. Alright, sadly. Some good shit. Proven. We have proved it to ourselves with helping various people we know who would absolutely scoff and laugh at that fact alone for quite some time. And now they're like, oh my God, no way. One man in particular had a lingering, long, ongoing cold, sinus problem, headache, the whole 9 yards. I think it was that was lingering symptoms from the CVID shit. And also accepted one of the first forest needles. And it was ongoing as symptoms and nastiness was going on forever. And Sarah caught wind of this, gave him the same shit, cleared up in a day and a half, gone. And that's just one example of many examples we have proven to ourselves that it works. Take from what you will or leave it, but I would bet my life on it. I'd stake my life on that fact. Okay, there you go. That's what goes on in this house. All right, so what's going on? A lot of people. Yeah, I'll bite my lip on that one for a bit. At the end, I got a message for all who care about shit when I'm done here, all right? Now this, I don't know where this came from. Is this the inbox screenshot? I'll go backwards here. There's a screenshot sent to me from the comment section, all right? Don't know what it's about. I believe it was somebody's experience. They wanted to be heard. Come on, what's going on here? They put it on the comment section, so here goes. Bordering on a decade ago, I have the date written in an old diary somewhere. I drove to a friend's place just for a very quick visit. I didn't take my phone and therefore had no camera. My then 18-year-old daughter, hold on. Oh, Stu, do this out of my photo album. I don't know if anybody has an iPhone. They absolutely have annihilated the simplicity of the photo albums in your iPhone, right? Sorry. I drove to a friend's place just for a very quick visit. Didn't take my phone and therefore had no camera. My then 18-year-old daughter accompanied me. Call it fate. Perhaps it was meant to be, but she didn't take her phone either. And therefore, she had no camera either. When we left my friend's place, just as it was turning from dusk to dark, I was driving down the road and spotted a huge orange ball of light sitting stationary in the sky, accompanied by smaller orange lights which were appearing and disappearing at random in different places in the sky. I pulled the car over and we watched it unfold for about 10 minutes before I started thinking I might be pushing our luck. Can I prove it? No. Will I always be eternally grateful that my daughter was with me to witness them and therefore know I'm not mad making it up? Yes. Prior to this, I had always kept an open mind, and sadly, some people are so mentally shallow, they will never be convinced of anything until it's their turn to experience it. And if that opportunity arrives, no matter how confident they think they are, they won't be prepared for it in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, agreed. Agreed. And even if you feel you are prepared for it, I think with the orange ball thing, I think that'd be a fairly easy one to react by. I got to get a picture or video of this, but I can assure you, by firsthand experience, when it comes to these beings that are out here, even if you absolutely know they are there. Like one time for me, I'm set up with a tripod, a camera on the tripod where I knew things were going down when I was intentionally looking. I put a 300 Magnum in the grass at my feet, thinking I was being slick and sneaky. And then this huge cottonwood tree started to get the living shit beat out of it. 150 yards in front of me, this river bottom in the early spring. And believe me, I didn't think for 1 second of hitting record in that camera. Crazy, right? When your fight or flight kicks in, there's no other thoughts. It's fight or flight. It's not, oh man, the world sure would like to see this right now. I got a camera right here. I better find the record button. Said basically almost no one ever when that intense shit's going down. Anyway. Here we go. Next. Hello, Steve. Hello, Steve. My name is Retired Army SFC Jerry Ford. You can use my name because I don't give a shit what anybody thinks about what I say. Right on. A free, honest man. In 1981, at Fort Wainwright, Alaska, I was an 18-year-old private. We were there for extreme cold weather training. We went up to one of the high mountains behind the base, and it took 3 hours to get to the top. This is in January. After we put up our tent, we got to walk around the camp. Walk around the camp area, and we started hearing what I learned later was whoops and screams. And about 150 meters, we saw a huge black thing walking on the side of this mountain. It had no backpack or clothes on unless it was a hairy jumpsuit. Me being a young private, I thought it was a bear walking. And 4 days later, we went back to Wainwright and got 2 days leave. We'll be being a ladies' man, LOL. Will. Typo. Punctuation missing. Will, being a ladies' man, LOL. I had met a native Alaskan. Her mother managed the bar we were in. So I started talking to her about what I saw, and her mother overheard me and said, "Bears are not out now." And what I saw was a hairy man. And I asked, "What's that?" My girlfriend said, "That's our name for a Sasquatch." I said, "Okay, what's that?" And she gave me a book about I don't remember who wrote it, and that was how I learned about them. Now, fast forward to 2021, behind my house in Kentucky around late March, and the first 2 weeks of April, late at night around 100 hours to 2:30 hours, there are whoops and loud screams, almost just like what I heard in Alaska. And this has gone on every year since, and will happen again soon. And last year in July, I was riding my horse in the woods behind my house. You can ride for hours back there. While riding, my horse started acting skittish and trying to turn around on me. I got off him and tied him to a tree and started walking ahead of us. And about 25 feet from where I had the horse at, I found a lot of bones. At least 4 deer and a coyote, about 5 rabbits, and a couple of turkeys. And soon I started feeling like I needed to leave the area now, so I did. Now that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thanks for letting me share this with you, man. And P.S., this government crap needs to stop with the guns. And between our two countries, mainly with mine, later. Yeah, it does. Appreciate that, man. Welcome to the club. Quick mention, you got a bone pile there. It's one of two things. My one option's probably very unlikely, which would be a trapper's bone pile, bait pile. Probably unlikely. And but that would be, for me, that would be worthy of putting a trail camera there, just to see if natural predators are going to those bones. That would be very interesting for me. So maybe think about that one, especially before shit's about to go down around your back 40. Throw up at least 2 trail cameras, different angles, maybe even 3. I have 2 trail. I put 2 trail cameras on average at every single place that I'm curious about for my own hunting. Only because I know that no matter what the brand, they don't all trigger at the same time. And when it's a very important place for me, I'll have up to 4 to 5 cameras monitoring that one spot or everything immediately going into that spot. So if you got a couple of them, throw down a couple or even a few different angles. That'd be interesting, right? I would never ever even dream of putting them there to catch some kind of unknown upright being, because we've already learned that that won't happen. But I'd be very curious to know whether or not the natural predators, anything, is actually going there to snoop around and feed, or if they're not going there at all. Because I'll guarantee you, if there's canines around there, and they previously went, if it's just bones left and that's it, it doesn't matter. Any canine that had even a small mouthful of meat from that bone pile, he's coming back to see if there's any fresh. And it'd be interesting to see if they are or aren't, right? Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. What's this? All right, here is a quick follow-up from the young lady who woke up and to my voice on her YouTube thinking it was her dad ranting. Remember that? I think that was yesterday or the day before. And she said, "Oh, last thing to add. How it has affected me. I am terrified of going outside at night. I never snuck out alone after that, and I refuse to walk anywhere alone at night. I can go to well-lit areas at night, but I wouldn't go in the dark alone out in the open." Excuse me. I also wanted to add, my ex-husband, he saw some things in the woods. He would never tell me the story, but he said there is absolutely things that happen in the woods that isn't known to the public. I have wanted to contact him for his stories, but if I do, I'll ask him to, if he would, take a look at your channel. I'm sure he is afraid of being ridiculed, but I hope your channel helps him. You had to send him a video, or even send him this video. And she also had another, oh boy, hold on. She also had another one here, which is stacked in the same little folder. And I wanted to add a few details. I don't remember the details of what the things look like. What I do remember is thinking that the thing I saw at 13 was a person, and then an animal. I remember seeing the hairy body, and I remember that night thinking that it was a bear walking on 2 feet, and I remember being terrified that night. I didn't tell a soul because I felt like I was embarrassed for being so scared. And I guess subconsciously I felt like no one would believe me, and I definitely didn't tell my mom that I snuck out the night before. The encounter, when I was 3, I do remember more. Not clear facial features, but rather a bird's eye view, kinda. I just remember looking into its eyes, and the surreal sounds around me getting turned down. I would have thought it was a bear or a hairy man. That was the mixture I remember. Hairy man that's bear-like. I don't remember any foul smells in either encounter or any sounds. There you go. Appreciate that follow-up, Ashley. Appreciate it big time. And you know what? You just might want to possibly just email this to your ex, to see if you might want to share what he knows, what he's seen, and so he knows if you are watching this video now and she has shared it with you. We don't share names. You ask anyone here, go in the comments section. We don't share names if they're asked not to be shared. And you'll see shortly that you're not alone with what you've seen in the woods, no matter how crazy you think it is. All right? There you go. So share away, my man, if you are here because of Ashley. Next. Chesterfield, Idaho. Hairy man with a club, 1902. Hey Steve, my name is Chris Bassett, and I live about 15 miles from where this happened. I hunt right where it happened. My family and myself have had experiences of our own in this same area. I'd love to chat with you about our experiences. I think it would be much easier to tell them over a chat rather than typing them out. If you want to talk, hit me back. Okay, gotcha. All right, so I got you. Saved? And you I can't say exactly when, but you'll be hearing from Sarah to line that up, all right? I'll chat with you. I'll do it. Next. All of today so far is from the recents, too, okay, you guys? This is titled, She Squatch Saved My Life. Missing 411. Hello, Steve. This is a long email, part of a longer story. I am back with the rest of the story concerning what happened to me in my neighbor's woodlot. You read my email in May, June of 2024 about a male Sasquatch breaking my other neighbor's miniature donkey's neck and carrying him away for food. First, let me say that in the many decades following this go-around with Sasquatches, I had a mind block. I never admitted to myself the truths that happened to me in those 2 days. Can Dave tell me if I was a missing 411? Can the dear ladies or Mr. Owlman explain my story to me? I ask, why me? And then I ask, why not me? I am Rh negative. I have an extra vertebrae, and my temperature is 97 F, sometimes 95. I have foreseen all my future homes by years and car accidents minutes before the crash. I see dying people before they know. Once I foresaw a newborn baby was deaf many months before the parents knew. Fortune tellers ask me why I'm paying them, when my powers are far more stronger than their powers, and none of this feels like a gift. My missing story started on a sunny late summer morning. As told in my previous email, I was a dairy farmer's wife. First thing in the morning, I was awake and ready to start morning chores. The mind speak was inside my head. This mind speak was not my dear departed paternal grandmother who spoke to me often. My grandmother passed 1 month before I was born. Her dying wish was to see me born. This mind speak was masculine and to the point. I saw pictures of my neighbor's woodlot and my miniature donkey friend another mile away. Steve, you asked what mind speak is and what it feels like. I was thinking my morning to-do list and minding my own business. The mind speak words were not my thoughts, not my words. I probed to find out what this was, and I was shut out. This male was more powerful than me. Again, the same words were telling me to ride my horse to my neighbor's woods, where the muddy trail became dry. I knew this trail well, as my mare threw her shoes often in the mud. We would wait until the trail became dry before we would gallop. Next, the mind speak showed me my little donkey friend. I had a knowing. This would be our last visit. This pissed me off. This male thing, entity, or whatever it was playing me. I knew it. It knew it. I knew it. It knew I knew it. The thing was in my head, into my soul, my past, and my feelings. Earlier that summer, my father phoned, warning me to come visit my uncle as it would be our last visit. We were baling hay on the farm, and it felt impossible for me to leave the farm work. My uncle committed suicide or was shot by his son, and that's another story. Each time during my chores, I thought to myself that it was silly to go riding, as I had work. Each time the mind speak became more forceful and more insistent. This male was living rent-free inside my head. It knew my thoughts and was ready to command me again. 11 a.m. My mare and I were on our way up the road across the fields to the woods. My go Arab mare came to a dead stop and snorted. She was having no part of it. She had won grand champion on a 35-mile competitive trail ride, and we were training for a 50-miler. I pushed her forward as she kept dragging her feet, protesting. I remember telling my mare that we both knew she was smarter than me. My Arab kept twisting and turning to run home, and as we left the muddy path in the woodlot and the trail became dry, I knew we were not alone. We spun around to 7 o'clock behind us, looking across an open area, across a small creek, and up a hill of white birch. My mare was snorting, legs spread, and trembling. I could see no one, but at that same time I had a knowing. I would not leave this woodlot alive. At this point, most people would have the screaming memes. I learned in my childhood that I could not outrun the boogeyman. I'm not a runner. I'm not a screamer. I'm a realist. I prayed, "Sweet Jesus, please save my mare. She has a heart of gold. Please, Jesus, I love her." I thought of just mounting to let my horse run away on her own, and she spun around. Something told me to try to escape together. I rode with a bitless bridle, and she was now leaping, not running. We came to a fork in the trail. Hindsight's 2020. Straight was 1/3 mile to a neighbor's house, who were not home. To the left was our usual path for miles with no help. My mare leapt across the creek to the left, galloping through S-curves up the hill. We had a straightaway run coming up. I had a fear. At a full-out run, we might run through the birch trees and I'd be clotheslined. At the straightaway, I wanted to look behind us, and as I turned halfway in my English saddle to understand what was happening, a mind-speak female voice said, "Do not look behind you. You will not like what you see." At the same time, I said, "Okay, I don't need to see." And I thought of turning straight. It happened. My hands are shaking. Now, decades later, I'm crying. Do I need to share this? If I can help one person, I will share. Next, I was floating horizontal, belly down, with a sense of moving. I looked to my right to see if I was going to hit the birch tree branches. I'm not good at measuring height, but I was as high as gutters on a 2-story house, and I was in shock. I looked for my mare, and I could not find her, and below me I saw my body, or rather what was left of my body. My head was decapitated. My hair was scattered in tufts. My arms, legs, torso, guts, and blood was everywhere. My first thoughts were, that didn't hurt, or I don't remember it hurting. I looked for my mare again, and I could not see her, and I begged, "Please do not hurt my mare. She has a good soul, and I am a sinner. Dead is dead. That's over." I was trying to think fast to say the right thing to save my mare. That's messy. I sent mind speak to the male. People will come looking for me. I understood lying would not work at this point. I never stayed out at night riding. Milking would be over at 10 p.m. Would my husband come looking for me? He'd be tired. I had no answer. No one had interest in where I went riding. Back and forth was said between the male and I. Me begging for my horse not to be hurt. The male told me the mess of me would be gone. Dogs would not smell my body. I would just disappear. This was decades before Dave's Tales of Missing 411. Was I a missing 411? I mentioned I had a daughter and a husband. They'd get over my disappearance quick enough and no doubt would come to blame me. Dead is dead. I felt at peace and I held no grudges. As fast as this had started, I was again halfway turned in my saddle, turning forward, running away as fast as we could run. Out of the woods, across an overgrown lawn of long empty farmhouse, we reached the dirt road far from the houses and farms. We faced the tree line. I searched and saw nothing, not knowing what I was looking for. My mare was snorting, shaking, breathing hard, terrified and dripping sweat. She had never been in such a bad condition. I tried to comfort her, but we were both still afraid of what was in the woods. There were miles to go back to the barn. No more woods for us. We rode past a swamp and a side hill. The words, pinch point, kept screaming in my head. Not my words. Not my words I'd ever used before. I felt danger, as we both looked into the swamp and into the woods, but saw nothing. Back and forth we looked until we galloped farther down the dirt road. Back at the farm, I told no one. No one would believe me nor protect me. I was afraid my now ex-husband would say I could no longer ride my horses. I never rode in my favorite woods again, and my Arab, my dream horse since my childhood, was never the same in her head. No shit, crazy. There is more to my mare's story, but none of it is good. I could never ride her again, as riding was too traumatic for her. I could never hurt her. Wow, that's a tragic frickin' loss there. Most of the stories in my previous email, the she-squatch followed me home that night and slammed my home twice to wake me. I did not know what she was and never questioned her identity. But that night, she told me she saved my life. And she saved my mare's life. I told her I did not understand. And I was shown a video in my mind's eye of my horse and I in the woods from an angle seen from off the trail. The she-squatch found me years later. I recognized her voice by her screams, and again she told me she saved my life. I understood then and thanked her. My life had completely changed and was still changing. I think of my Arab mare often, who has passed over to the other side, and I think of the she-squatch often and wish her well. And one last addition to my she-Sasquatch story. Many HTR, or is that a typo? I think he may have meant HTH stories, speak of gifts given by Sabe. Only last year did I understand I was given a most special gift. Besides my life and the life of my mare, I collect rocks and built 75 feet of stone walls in the dairy farm. I have a pebble from Stonehenge's parking lot, more pebbles from Robert Frost's grave, and pebbles near his mailbox in New Hampshire. My rock collection is strange. After the she-Sasquatch visit, a stone ladle was placed on top of the stone wall I was building. This was a most perfect stone ladle, but the handle was broken off. The portions were perfect, sized at 1 foot plus. The stone was perfectly smooth. The hill farm ground was all shale. This stone ladle was not a local stone, and I've never seen Native American tool like this one. Was it a Native American artifact? I had a knowing this stone ladle was a gift on loan. I asked my neighbors if they had left the ladle for me. Several times the ladle was moved inside my home, but I felt that was wrong, as I was meant to return my gift. The third time the stone spoon was placed back on the stone wall, it was taken. My most prized stone spoon was a gift on loan from the she-Sasquatch, and it took me decades to ask, decades to realize my Sasquatch experience and finding the stone spoon happened at the same time. Steve, what do you think? I have only questions. I have no answers. Please don't use my name. All right. I got you. And I totally can relate with your horse. There's a lot of confusion. No, I don't know. There isn't a lot of confusion. I mean, everything's confusing in this lifetime, but so you think you missed out on the video from your mind's eye of what went down? How did you end up so high in the air, and what tore you to shreds? And did you have to watch that? What did it? Who did it? You know what I mean? Why? That's a pretty alarming thing. You know, and another thing, immediately what I thought when you said that she saved your life, I'm like, well, you never got to ride your horse again and couldn't go in the woods. You know, it's like, But what a huge, important piece of your life that was destroyed, right? So, did she save your life? You know what I mean? In a way. Take from it what you will, leave it, you guys. But there is some patterns in there, like it or not, right? Yeah, I don't know what's up with the gifts. They sure seem to leave a lot of people some fairly simple and useless items, right? Pebbles, rocks, bones, little mini skulls, teeth, feathers. Well, I guess in a way, maybe I shouldn't say they're useless. They're useless. Maybe they are useful, and I'm just a simple human that's been taught that they are useless. There's that possibility too, right? But I don't know who was in. I don't know who was in. Do we even call it another world, or we just say, I don't have a clue who or what is going on the other side of this veil. It's right next to us, and there's no way there isn't. That's just for me. I'm not dictating, but if I had $5,000 right now and had to place it on a bet, I'd put it all on easily without hesitation that there is a veil between us and somewhere else. That's a fact. There's no way getting out of it. Do I want there to be? No. No. Do I want to have to acknowledge that as fact? No. Shit, no. That is fact. Because of all the knowledge we've learned here from each other, right? People around the world. Something happened on the other side of the veil and me, and I documented it here with that knife and my arrow years ago. Possibly many other things that I didn't even focus on too clearly. Something's been going on. Something is going on. Something's beside us. And you got to wonder too, what's the quality of life for these beings, these spirits, whoever it is that get to have the clear knowledge and possibly exist on the other side of this veil? Are they happy? Are they doing fun shit? Do you know what I mean? Is all of their time spent spooking and terrorizing human beings and not quite being able to fully interact with them? Which would be a bit of a sentence, like a hell-like sentence, right? Is there sunshine? Is there fishing on the other side of the veil? Do you get to go hiking? Do you get to hang out with friends and tell each other stupid ass jokes and laugh your face off on the other side of this veil? You know what I mean? Is it dark and dismal and futureless and evil on the other side of this veil? You know what I mean? I haven't a clue. How does one end up on the other side of this veil? And why? How do you end up there? Why are you there? What's your quality of life? What's your purpose? Is it fun? Is there happiness? Do you know what I mean? All the what should be typical questions. Will we find out? I think absolutely. Why are we not supposed to find out all this shit during this experience of being a simple human? I don't have a clue. Not yet, but I'm getting there. And it's not happy answers that I'm coming up with. And on that note, I have to make another video after this, not related to this topic here, but I have to. I have to make a video again that I'm going to pump out across all avenues I have to pump it across. I have a lot I need to share with the world that's very, very important on that note. Okay, stop babbling. More voices, more important than mine. All right. I just cracked open another folder which has a slew of emails in it not marked as read. No title in this email. Hi Steve, my story is not as exciting as some others, but it was pretty interesting to me at the time. I regularly go camping into the North Georgia mountains for, shall we say, periodic mental health breaks. Good for you, man. That's very important. That's very important for me anyway. It was about 5 years ago in September, and I arrived at the DeSoto Falls Recreation Area near Blairsville, Georgia, at just about dusk. It's a primitive campsite, and since it was the middle of the week, I was the only one there. I've been driving all day and was pretty tired. I quickly set up my tent right next to Frogtown Creek and got settled in. The sound of the creek quickly put me to sleep. It was just about 1 a.m. I was awakened by a loud howl. It was followed by another howl further away. I have hiked, camped, and hunted all over the country, and I've never heard a sound like that. And it wasn't a dog. It wasn't a wolf, and it wasn't a coyote. It wasn't an owl. It was deeper and throatier, if that makes sense. It sent chills down my spine. The closer one, whatever it was, howled again. I could not tell how close or how far it was. I would guess it was at least a couple 100 yards away, but it's hard to tell in the thick woods in the mountains. And after that, things were quiet for a little while. Then I started hearing a knocking sound. At the time, I was thinking it sounded like someone was hitting a tree with a 2x4. 2 or 3 knocks close by, followed by 2 or 3 knocks further away. And this went on for about 15 minutes. And after that, total silence. And after about an hour, I fell asleep again. The next morning, I packed up and I drove to a little convenience store a few miles away to get some coffee. The proprietor was an older man who was very friendly, and in our conversation I mentioned hearing weird noises the night before, and the first words out of his mouth were, quote, "That was probably one of our Bigfoots," end quote. He went on to say that people hear them all the time, and on occasion see them. He said some sheriff's deputies got one on video on the same road up towards Blairsville, maybe 10 miles north. Anyway, that's my story. Not as exciting as some of your viewers/listeners, but it's certainly made Bigfoot a little more real to me. Keep up the good work. I really enjoy your videos. Jack Turnock, Jacksonville, Florida. Jack, appreciate you, man. Big time. Now, sleuths. You heard where. How many of you are going to look into seeing about that video the police possibly caught, and if it's somewhere available to public or if it's just known by the town members? Appreciate you, man. Oh, here's an old one. This is from a guy who follows the channel. I sent him an invite, see if you want to come and chat. No answers, so maybe that's a no. But I'm going to share this because there's a quick message at the end of this. This might have been shared back in the day. This is about a man named Robert, who and his family had built up or taken care of or cleaned up a provincial campground on the Sunshine Coast, which is right over here across from Vancouver Island on the mainland British Columbia, up from Vancouver, the city. And the government eventually took the campground away from them. They had to move away. The BFRO and his greasy leader came there, abused the shit out of this guy. And this man had many first direct stories of what went down during those times. And now everyone took advantage of this guy, this Robert. And he just messaged me a little while ago, let me know that Robert has passed away, died. So, I'm going to read this. And maybe, possibly, the man who sent me this will come on and talk to us. I don't know. On here. Sunshine Coast, 2007. A tossed tree. I've got another story for you from my 2007 trip to the Sunshine Coast. Robert and I had many experiences that go around because I was there for 7 days instead of just 3 like the year before. This will be the second story from this trip. Robert and his family moved from Sechelt to Madeira Park since my last visit in 2006. Excuse me. He decided to take me to a spot near Pender Harbor, where a new forestry road had just been built. It was a brand new road with white crushed gravel. But it wasn't fine gravel, it was coarse, almost like small rocks. Not what you would think would be used for a road. There was a spot there at the apex of a long curve where the road was wider. We parked our vehicles there and later would camp there for the night. And that's where we were going to camp for the night. We walked up and down the road in both directions for a little while. And he explained to me what the markings on the trees meant. Then we took an ATV trail and walked towards the power line right away that was only about 200 to 300 meters away. I've been on that power line right around there. I was looking for elk. The trail had trees broken down over it. Excuse me, and he explained to me that the Sasquatch didn't like the ATVs running through there, so they tried to block the trail with trees. At some point, we decided to separate. I stayed near the trail and he went off trail into the woods. I made my way back to the vehicles and stayed on the outside of the curve. The vehicles were parked on the inside. I was attracted to a fallen tree that was up the hill from me and started to walk towards it when I heard a loud impact behind. I spun around to see the end of a fallen tree bounce up and down on top of a large rock that must have been 4 feet high. The tree was at least 30 inches near the root ball, and it had been lying there completely horizontal when we had pulled and parked. Its end hung over the rock about 10 feet. The initial strike is what spun me around, and I watched as each bounce got lower and lower until it finally came to rest on the rock again. Now seriously, what the F? I was shaking. There was no logical explanation for what I had just witnessed. There wasn't anything anywhere in my field of vision that could account for this fallen tree to have been bouncing off that rock like that. I called Robert on my solo phone, which doubled as a walkie-talkie, by pressing the button on the side. You could use it that way anywhere in the country to talk to other solo phones. It was pretty handy. He answered, and I asked him where he was, and he told me, and I asked him to yell out. I heard him up the hill from me, a little bit muffled. I walked back towards the ATV trail where I told him I was heading so that I could get an easier path to him, rather than trying to climb up the hill and climb over the deadfall where I could break a leg. At about 25 meters onto the trail, I start hearing footsteps through the woods, about 10 meters away. I stop, they stop. I start walking, they start again. I take about 10 paces and stop, and they stop. I keyed the phone mic and asked Robert where he was, and he said, "In the same spot waiting for you," he says. "So you're not moving?" I ask him. "No," he says. I was quiet for a little bit, staring in the direction I heard the footsteps. There was nothing there. I started walking up the hill again, and there were footsteps keeping pace with me. I stopped, they stopped. "You're just trying to scare me," I called out towards the sound. "No, I'm not." Robert's voice further up the hill and about 30 meters past where the footsteps had been. I keyed the phone. "Well, that's effed." I said, "There's something over here pacing me whenever I walk, and I can't see anything." "No way," he responds. "I thought it was you pranking me," I told him. I started walking up the hill again. "I'll meet you on the trail. I'll head back that way," he told me. And as I walked up the trail to meet Robert, there were no more footsteps, just mine, and soon Robert's. When I looked up, there he was about 15 meters off the trail heading towards me, not being quiet about it at all. We met on the trail, and I told him about the bouncing tree, and he shook his head wide-eyed in disbelief. We walked to where I had heard the footsteps, looked around, and found nothing. There was something pacing me as I walked up that hill. The sound of it was so clear that I thought Robert was pranking me, but I have to say that the bouncing tree takes the cake. Again, Steve, I implore you to make the time to watch the video in the link too. Okay, there's you and Sarah. Stay safe and keep each other close. Cheers. Ricardo. Okay, I don't have a link in this email in this folder. I'd have to search for it. I have a bunch of emails from Ricardo back in the day. I think he moved back east, but again, the invitation's out there, man. You want to come on here and BS with me and talk about it all? Please do. Let me know, right? I sent you an email. And for all you guys, this man and Robert, I believe they've seen these beings more than a few times. Right there. Okay, next. One more, and then I gotta get ripping. So this summer, my best friend and hunting partner and his wife decided to go on a backpacking/hiking trip together. We hiked into a remote lake through Kananaskis in Alberta. It was a nice hike and was a busy trail until the last 5 kilometers or so. It was a beautiful lake, and we found a nice camp spot in the trees on the far side of the lake with a nice small beach. We sweat like crazy in the summer heat with heavy packs, so we went for a swim when we got there. It was such an amazing spot. We had dinner and a nice fire going and decided to turn in for the night. And about 30, maybe 40 minutes after getting into our tents, we heard branches breaking above us in the trees. My friend's wife was terrified, thinking it was a grizzly. Unfortunately, we decided to save on weight and not bring a gun. Yeah, kind of dumb, as I always take a gun, as I have read lots of bear attack books and witnessed the results of pissed off bears. So I would rather have a gun and not need that, and not need than need it, and not have it. Anyway, the noise in the woods carried on for quite a while and finally stopped when I fell asleep with a weird feeling of anxiety. Not sure how long later, but I woke up to a terrible screaming noise between our 2 tents. Between the tents. Ooh. I woke up and immediately, what the F? My buddy and his wife said the same. It was the strangest noise I've ever heard, like a low wail. They kind of went high-pitched at the end, like a wah. Reminded me something of a scream a chimpanzee would make, but deeper sort of. We were all pretty freaked out at this point. Avid outdoorsman with a lot of backcountry experience. I have never in my life heard anything like this. then absolute quiet. Never heard anything leave, no footsteps, nothing. You could have heard a duck fart from the other side of the lake. And needless to say, no sleep was had that night by any of us. The next morning over breakfast and instant coffee, we discussed the strange experience and chalked it up to maybe a marten or something, but I think it was something very different. When I stumbled across your channel, I was instantly intrigued and am more curious about all these encounters. I have a video of the hike on my YouTube channel. There isn't anything on that video of this experience that I don't plan on seeking out. There isn't anything on that video of this experience, and I don't plan on seeking out Sasquatch, but now my mind's eyes and ears are open to more understanding of some of the strange things that can happen in our backcountry. Thanks for all you do. Take care, Gray. There you go. Appreciate that email, man. Yeah, that's a little unnerving. Between the two tents. All right, I got another one. I'm going to read one more. One more. It's just like fishing here, right? Every morning, like me, it's like fishing. Okay, one more cast. I know I got to go, but one more cast. Hello. I've been watching your videos for a while, and I'm impressed with your attitude towards these things and willingness to continue to venture where they live. I had an experience in the late spring of '61 in Cecil County, Maryland, between the forks of the Northeast Creek just north of U.S. Highway 40. The area was and is heavily wooded, and I used to hunt squirrels there in season and just hike there in the spring and summer. This is between '58 and 1962. I was about 16 when this happened. I left home with my .22 rifle, which I always carried as I was always hoping to see a groundhog or a crow to shoot. I was a bit bloodthirsty back then. I crossed down to the highway following the creek and crossed it up into the woods, which were in full leaf. I was walking when I heard crows mobbing something and raising a real ruckus. This meant a possible shot at a crow and or whatever they were mobbing, so headed to where it was coming from. The wind was blowing the leaves around as I stood below a large tree where the crows seemed to be, but I could not see any crows, just hear them raising hell with whatever they did not like. I stood there for a while and slowly moved around a bit to see if I could spot anything above me, but could not. I remember thinking how strange this was, and then all of a sudden all the noise stopped and everything was dead still in the woods. Strange as I did not see anything fly away from the tree, and not another sound. Creepy. I turned around to survey the woods behind me and saw what I thought were two people staring at me from a patch of honeysuckle vines that was hanging from a couple of trees. Honeysuckle was very common and invaded the trees and made great hiding places when we would play hide and seek in the woods. The two were about 40 yards away maximum, and I could not make out any colors on the clothing they were wearing. They were just two dark figures looking at me and not moving. Strange. I noticed one was larger than the other, which I thought was a parent and a child. The adult seemed a bit taller than me, and the smaller on about 5 foot or so. I may have said something, but they did not speak, and I started moving to my left to get a view of them behind the honeysuckle as they turned and were walking away. I got into position to observe them, and the smaller one was in the lead. The smaller one stepped in the small clearing between the trees and I could not see any clothing. And it went from walking upright to down on all fours, and I could see it was gray in color. I wondered for a few seconds what the hell, and if it was a deer, but deer reddish, and then I thought coyote, but it was a lot bigger. I did not notice the larger one while this was taking place. This only took a few seconds, and then the hair on the back of my neck stood up, and I made a run for the edge of the woods and the pasture on the other side. I got into the pasture and made my way home, and I never really gave it much thought, as nothing bad had happened. The sun was bright, and this occurred in early afternoon, and I'll never forget the strangeness of not seeing any crows and the sudden silence before I noticed the two beings behind me. I was armed. I wonder now that if that made any difference, or if whatever they were just curious. I think I could still find the spot where this happened if I were to go back, as the woods is still there. Bob Delk. Bob, welcome to the club. And if you found this place on your own, which everybody does, and were compelled to write in, you know what you saw now, right? You know what you saw now. I know you know. It's not too bad of an experience, really, for what experiences can be sometimes, which have been shared here with us through all. Thank God. We're welcome to the club, right? Club of no return. And there you go, you guys. My mind is wandering off because I just have some things that I really, really, really need to say to the world today, and I'm going to. Here's something on a lighter note, though. I was going through all my shit, my junk, my stuff, and I came across, so this might be interesting to some, maybe not, but I came across this tanned deer hide. Look at this. Like, guess what this is? This, I gotta figure out where to put it. This is from the very first buck I ever shot with my bow and arrow when I was a boy, all by myself in the hills in Souk. Isn't that cool? My very first one right here. And I shot him right perfectly. This is his head and neck I'm holding up here. And I shot him right behind the front shoulder. Perfectly in the heart. Isn't that crazy? And the old boy made me, it was a 4x5 black-tailed deer. And where are the antlers? Dumbass me, years ago, I needed a set of rattling antlers. They had a split in the skull after years of being nailed on a piece of wood in my bedroom. And I needed some rattle antlers. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just go take those once and I'll bring them. What did I do? I left them on a rock in the timber way above the Malahat, way back in that big fir. Left them on a rock and lost them. Shit! But anyway, that's kind of a cool little find. I have to put it on the wall. Maybe I'll put it on that wall, maybe. But anyway, there you go. Share my story at howtohunt.com. That's where you get your truth shared word for word. Please share it. We might not have the internet one day, right? And that could be any day for the way shit's been going down. What else? My live streaming idea of the stern of the boat when people are fishing with me, or even me by myself. Obviously, when people are with me, it'll be up to them. Because I think I might have ran that by some people last year and they said no. So that'll be pending too, right? I won't, just so you know, if you've emailed Sarah to go fishing with me, I'm not automatically streaming you live. It's going to be a group decision if you are on my boat. Other than that, when I'm by myself, hell yeah, I'll take you guys. What else? Quick note on the fishing. If you are looking to fish on the inside of Vancouver Island, Campbell River, Courtney, we have a awesome boat there with an awesome captain. And we got 2 boats on the west coast of Vancouver Island and Bamfield, okay? There you go. And all 3 boats take, I don't know. You twist my arm. Sometimes I'll take more than 4, but we don't like it. Same with my buddy and my other buddy in Courtney. I think he could take like 6 or 8. He's got a big boat. But anyway, that's at book it at howtohunt.com, or you can find all that info on the website, howtohunt.com. And there you go. There you go. I will be back tomorrow. Unless I get the boot from the internet and maybe somebody comes and arrests me for free speech after this afternoon. Later.